Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Porana Motorsports, where we're working on MI D1VA2U, our $500 budget burnout build car for my 15-year-old daughter. This episode, nothing in particular. We're just going to keep plugging through the list of jobs, and hopefully she's ready to go next week. So where did we leave you last? Well, we did the dioding of the gearbox, but in actual fact of the building of the car, this is about where I left you. I got the side of the extractors on, but this side is currently not yet. So I'm going to do a heater tap delete and an ABS unit delete. And we are going to get this side header off and get the other side extractor in there. I need to get radiator back in, and I need to get it so that it's ready to start up at least, so I can move the car from its current location and it can function. So we're just going to plug through a whole heap of the jobs. I'll put you on time lapse so you can just follow along, because none of this is really too difficult. I've already showed you about putting extractors on. I'll show you what we're going to do with the brakes though. Alright, so we'll run through that separately, but removing the heater tap is just the matter of unplugging everything, and we just need to loop the hose here, which I'll show you when I do. In Manged Up, we actually have this all blanked off and welded up, so in the timing cover. But we're not going to get to do that in this car at this stage, where we will in the future. Alright, let's get plugging with some jobs. Well guys, I don't even know where I've left off, to be honest. I've had about the worst week of sickness just about in my entire life. I don't know what I brought back from Bali, but I tell you what, it's knocked me for a six. Anyway, we've got a car to build, and I'm just going to have to get over it. So, I am about to jack the rear end up in the air, because I've got some diff gears to chuck in this big girl. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to try and convince Dad to play underneath the bonnet here and get out that broken header stud that's got itself in there on the passenger side, and then we're going to finish getting the driver's side off and get the extractors on. So I'm going to dive underneath the back of this car, we'll get it jacked up in the air, jack stands underneath, and start ripping out this rear diff. Alright, let's get this done. Alrighty, we're underneath the car, jacked up, jack stands in place, and this is the puppy we're going to get out. So we have an Allen key socket, which is a, pretty sure it says 8 on the side, so I'm pretty sure it's an 8mm. Big Allen key. It's going to get in here and take these out on both sides. That'll allow us to pop the drive shafts off from the outside. We're going to disconnect our ABS sensors here. We've got our tail shaft rubber donut up here, which is 3 bolts. Well, it's 6, but we're only going to take the 3 out. And then we have our rear bracket. We've got some bolts up the top here and some more up the top up there. So what we do is we are going to undo drive shaft's tail shaft. We're going to take the weight with the jack. We're going to take these bolts here out, which will allow the whole cradle at the rear end to drop down and hopefully give us a little bit more room to access the bolts up the top, because they are, well, up there's not enough room. So let's get this thing pieced out. Alright, just a quick tip with your socket. Well, first get a little screwdriver, get in here, dig any little dirt and crap out that you can get from the inside of the bolt, and then get your socket, get it into the location in the bolt, in the thing, and then give it a little tap in with the hammer until it bottoms out, because these things have a tendency of not going in straight or not going in all the way. And you can see here, it's well used, there's a little wear mark on there of how much it actually has to go in. These things have a bad habit of stripping, and the last thing you want to do is have one of these things and you can't get the bloody thing out. So tap it in with the hammer, put your socket on, and then take it out. It takes a few seconds longer, but at least you get it out in one piece. Nice little pile of Allen key bolts. Both the drive shafts are out, just sitting there. Right, time for a tail shaft. And then we're going to get stuck into our last bolts holding this thing in. Up the top and the back here. Okie dokie. Well, these have a E18 Torx style bolt on them. So I'll get those off now, and then we can drop the shaft out of the way. Well, after some grunting and groaning later, some very, very tight diff bolts that have never been out before, and having the 2 front ones underneath the sway bar gives you about this much clearance, not enough to be able to get a socket in, so you're in there with a spanner and an extension bar, etc, etc. A diff is on the ground. So tomorrow, diff ratio change and a locker, and put it back in the car. Meanwhile, Dad's been working feverishly at the front of the car.
I need a jack to jack it up so I can drop the steering box.
Yeah, so one side of the extractors are on. Let's go and have a look. Alrighty, so this side extractor, O2 sensor, etc. is on. This side manifold is out, but of course you can't slide the extractor down there without moving the steering rack. So extractor is here ready to rock. We just need a little bit more. Dad's got the bolts out of the steering rack there. We just need to be able to get in there and jack it up and move things around. We'll slide the extractor in, and then we can bolt it all back up again. So that'll be a tomorrow morning job. Shouldn't take too much long with the both of us on it first thing in the morning. Then we can get stuck into changing a diff ratio in this old M76.
Something different.
We've got 4.1s or 3.89s to go in. I'm pretty sure we're going to chuck in the 3.89s, and that way, if we want to have a bit of a test run, we can actually drop these out of here and put them in manged up, and manged up's 4.1s can come into here. Swap around, see how that goes in the future. But for this weekend, we're going to have 2 3.89s we're going to get the 3.89 going in this thing. And then the other 411, I think we might slip into that. I think that's a little bit more appropriate. Cool, alrighty, well that stuff's done for today. Diff's out as far as we can get. We're running out of daylight. It's not far from going down, and it's starting to get a bit cooler, so we'll have a bit of a clean up here for some tools, and we'll get back into it in the morning. Cool. Another day here at the Porana Motorsports workshop. We've had a little bit of a roadblock for this morning. I've realised the diff gears we have are not going to work in this style of diff. So this one is the later one there and the early one, so I need a VT and earlier diff, which I'm in the middle of chasing down, a tail shaft and yoke, or a diff tail shaft, etc, etc. Or I might have a mate who's got a set of 411s already done up. Now I know that kind of defeats the purpose, because we were going to put the 389s in here and then swap them into manged up, but we can do that eventually, because we'll just have to chase down another earlier VT style diff and swap them in, because they're not going to work in here, but they will work in manged up. So yeah, so I'm in the process of organising that, and so we're going to get stuck into finishing off these extractors and getting them in, and start plugging along with a few other bits and pieces. Today's Tuesday, today's video day, so I'll do as much as I possibly can, and then probably finish and button up the extractors, maybe the radiator back in and fans back in, etc, etc. Stop there, end this episode, and I'm going to have to race to Geraldton, I think, and pick up these either diff gears or tail shaft, and then I'll put the rest of it in the next episode. Which, what I might do is actually do 2 releases this week. So I might put this episode out today, Tuesday. I might put out the other one with the car, getting it ready, on Friday, and then next Tuesday you'll get Chloe's skid and speedway race meeting in another episode. So you might get an extra fill-in episode this week. We'll see how we go. Otherwise, it'll be stretched out every couple of weeks. Alright, we're back soon. Okay, we moved the steering rack over a little bit, but it's still just a little bit tight. We're removing the ABS unit anyway off the car. It was just not the one thing job we were going to do right this very second, but we're going to move the ABS unit because that foul's letting us get the extractor slide down. So we're going to delete on that at the moment, get rid of the bracket. That'll help us slide it in, and we'll do the brakes while we're here. So undo brake lines and get the unit taken off, and we'll come back and I'll show you what we're going to do then. Alrighty, so we're back down now to left with the 3 hoses, 2 front brakes and 1 rear.
I have to cut this off now.
Yep, delete the bracket off to the side, get the grinder out and get rid of that. So we've got 2 ports here, one and one at the bottom here that's blanked off, so they'll take our 2 front brakes. This will be our rear,
so that's plugged,
but that's going to be plugged off, so we're not going to be using that one. Obvious reasons. Burnout car, no rear brakes. Some guys get a tap and put in here, and you can buy that off of eBay. It's a setup already done where you can go straight to your ABS unit if you want to do it that way, or you can put a tap in here and switch your back brakes on and off manually, or you can get a electronic solenoid that can do it for you with a switch inside the car. But if you're doing something like drag racing and that, where you need your rear brakes but you don't want them for your burnout or something. But yeah, so we're going to delete on that and just run our fronts, and we're now going to delete on the bracket here, which will free up a heap of space inside here. Should make life a little bit easier. Alright, we'll get rid of this bracket and we'll start rerouting and bending some brake lines, making this work. Right, as you can see, bracket's gone, and we've bent up the 2 front brake lines going to the 2 spots on the back of the master cylinder there. And then we need to just blank off the front one. So in order to do that, what we do is you actually get, it's the big nut, so we cut this big nut off of here and then fill up the inside of that nut with weld. Basically make just a plug and screw it in the hole, and then just re-bleed the system. Only takes a few seconds, so it comes up pretty good. Haven't had any issues with doing it that way before. Right, so we are just now putting a bit of goop that's just about knackered on the flanges of the extractors, and we're going to get them jammed in and bolted up, and then the steering rack back up in place. And then extractors are finally done, brakes are deleted. I do need to take off the rear wheels down here and remove the calipers off the back, because we're going to be running some 14-inch rims, and the VX size brake calipers don't fit with the 14-inch rims. So we're going to take the calipers off, which don't work anymore now that we've deleted the rear brakes. So we'll get this extractor jammed in and buttoned up. I'm still sorting out the last of the diff information, and we'll move on to the next thing.
Bolt missing.
Is it? Alright, let's see if we can find a bolt. Okay, extractors are all in and bolted up. Brake lines are done. Dad is just welding up the nut at the moment. Steering rack is back in and bolted back up again. So that brings us to the end of the extractors fitting. Yes, we are starting to run out of time today because I need to get this edited and put out for everybody tonight. And I'm going to have to do a racing trip to Geraldton to pick up a Diff, by the looks of things. So, yes, I'll see how we go in the next little bit. If we get anything else done in the next hour or so, I will let you know, but if not, this could be the end of the video. Not too exciting. I know we didn't get a huge amount successfully done due to work commitments and being sick, etc, 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 but we are on target for getting the car ready for the weekend, so we'll keep plodding away. I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, well, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. I've run out of time for today, but brakes are done. So brakes are done at the front, extractors are on, steering rack's back in, the diff's out of the car, the other diff's organised. We've ticked a whole heap of boxes, ABS has been removed, the bracketry, etc. Whole heap of stuff ready to rock and roll. So tomorrow we'll have the new diff back in, and we'll get all the radiator back in and everything else situated and get stuck into the valve springs and the rockers and bits and pieces on the car. So it's coming along pretty quick. We've still got today's Tuesday, so I've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday morning if we absolutely need to, but I think we're getting pretty close to it. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that sort of stuff. Let us know if any of this is helping you, or even giving you some encouragement to jump into your cheap budget burnout project. There's so much still to go with this car. Where we stop ready for Chloe to skid is only going to be really the beginning. We've got so many more mods to make, so many more changes that will continue to make this car better, more reliable, more exciting, and try and push the boundaries of what we can get out of a basic car on a budget. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Porana Motorsports.